All right, so we are working on Chapter 8, Section 1, which is polynomials. We talked about yesterday, a monomial is different from a polynomial. Monomial is one term, such as 3x, or 3, or 3x squared, or 3x squared y. It is one term in your problem, so it becomes a polynomial when you put plus or minus. So 3x plus 4, or 3x plus 4x. That's a polynomial because it has more than one term. In actuality, it would be a binomial, but for the sake of just making it simpler, we're looking at monomials and polynomials, okay? The first part asks you to find the degree of each monomial. Now, if you remember, to find the degree of each monomial, all you do is look at the actual exponents in the monomial. So a monomial is one term. So you're looking at all of and the only part of the problem of the monomial that can have exponents is your variables. Whole numbers won't have exponents, because if it did, they would just solve it and it would be a whole number. They wouldn't leave it in exponent form. So you're looking at all of your variables in the problem to find the degree of the monomial. Okay, so you're following along on your homework. Number 8 is 3x. Right there, 3x. So the x itself has one exponent, all right, because it's the variable by itself. Any variable by itself with nothing is an understood 1. So the degree of number 8 would be 1. Number 10 is a whole number, 20. So when you've got a whole number 20, I just told you, exponents are only found on variables. So if it doesn't have a variable, it doesn't have a degree. So number 10, your degree would be 0. Okay? Looking at number 12 now, negative 7, y to the third z. You have two variables. You've got a y and you have a z. Your y has an exponent of 3, and your z has an exponent of an understood 1. So once again, you've got to add them up. So 3 plus 1 is what? So the degree of number 12 is 4. Okay? Looking at number 14, you've got 12 w to the fourth. There's only one variable, and it's 4. So the degree of number 14 would be 4. Okay, so now we're flipping the page to page 90. Now we're looking at adding and subtracting our monomials. So you've got 12p squared plus 8p squared. So one thing we went over yesterday, if it's kind of got the same suffix or the same tail, it's a common term. So basically all we're doing is combining like terms. Both of these are p squared terms on number 16. Both of them are p squared terms. So if they are, you just combine them. You just add them together. You don't add your exponents. This is like having 12p squareds, and you're adding to it 8p squareds. So you wouldn't have 20p to the fourth. You would have 20p squareds. Okay? So like on number 16, 12p squared plus 8p squared is 20p squared. Okay? Number 18, you've got 8w squared x plus w squared x. So the w squared x that's just sitting there, that's an understood 1 because it has to have a value. It's not 0. If it were 0, the whole thing would be 0. So there's an understood 1 there on number 18. So you've got 8w squared x plus 1w squared x would give you 9w squared x. Okay? Number 20, x to the third minus 9x to the third. Once again, x to the third must have a value. It can't be 0 because it's x to the third. It has value. So it's an understood 1. So you've got 1x to the third minus 9x to the third. That would give you negative 8x to the third. Basically, it's 1 minus 9. Number 22, 7x squared minus 2x squared. Once again, not doing anything to the suffix or the tail. You're just combining the terms. So you've got 7x squareds and you subtract 2x squareds. You would have how many left? 5x squareds. Okay? Any questions on those? Okay, so we start back with writing polynomials in standard form. and then naming each polynomial based on its degree and number of terms. So there's two things when you're looking at it. You're looking at how many terms are in the problem and then what degree you have to the whole polynomial. So that's basically going to be your largest exponent in the whole problem. So you've got 24, 5y minus 2y squared. So when you're putting it in standard form, you're listing them from the greatest degree to the smallest degree of monomials. So would 2y squared come before 5y? Yes, because y squared is the degree of 2. 5y is just the degree of 1. So you would flip their place. So you would have, let me get a different board. So you would have you would have negative 2y squared, and then what was the other term? Okay, so the other term is positive 5y. So when you're putting it in standard form, you're listing from the greatest degree to the smallest. Negative 2y squared is a degree of 2, and then your plus 5y has a degree of 1. So you would put negative 2y squared first. Now once it's in order, that's standard form. You're just listing them in order. That's standard form. So once you have it in standard form, then they want you to actually label it by its name. So if you refer to the chart on the first page of 8.1, it told us how to name things. So this one has two terms, negative 2y squared, and then it also has 5y. So when it has two terms, it would be called a binomial. Very good. So it would be called a binomial. What kind of binomial? That comes from the largest degree in the problem. So to what degree is this polynomial? It is quadratic because it's to the degree of 2. The highest degree in the problem is what they're asking you to classify it by. So you would have 2 would be your highest, and so it would be called a quadratic binomial. Okay? The next problem is negative 2q plus 7. The 7 has a degree of nothing. The q has a degree of 1. So it's already in standard form. So to say put it in standard form, they're not asking you to actually do anything. So once again, this one has two terms, negative 2q and 7. So it's called a binomial. And the highest degree is 1. And we call that a linear. So this one would be called a linear binomial. Okay, we're going to do one more on the video and then we're going to stop. We've got x squared plus 4 minus 3x. We want to put this in order of degrees because that's how we put something in standard form. So x squared plus 4 minus 3x, what needs to be changed about it? Well, x squared is the highest degree, so it stays at the beginning. And then which one comes next? The 4, which has a 0 degree, or the negative 3x, which has a degree of 1? So the negative 3x. So minus 3x, and then we're done with that, and we add our plus 4 to the end. Okay, and now it's in standard form. So once it's in standard form, what is the highest degree? What is your highest degree of the polynomial? It would come from your x squared. The highest degree would be 2. So what does that make this polynomial? Quadratic. Okay, so it starts with quadratic. Now you look at how many terms there are. How many terms are there? 3. What do we call polynomials with 3 terms? Trinomial. So this would be a quadratic trinomial. Okay, any questions?